We should start by saying welcome and thanks very much for coming along today. We're really, really pleased to have quite a few numbers signed up, so hopefully we'll see quite a few of you drop in as we continue chatting. But what we wanted to do first was introduce the FFJ team. If I can get the PowerPoint to move screens, which is really going to be frustrating if I can't. Bear with me. There we go. Okay, so first of all, what I wanted to do was introduce the FFJ team. We've got 4 of us who run Forces Families Jobs from behind the scenes. Myself, I am Lucy Heaver, and I'm the Employment Specialist and Policy Advisor from the Naval Families Federation. I also have with me today my colleague Caroline, who's just spoken to you. She is the Communications Manager at the RAF Families Federation. And we've got Jenna Richardson from the Army Families Federation, who is their Employment Specialist. And then the fantastic Sarah, who sits behind all of the admin behind Forces Families Jobs, and the address help@forcesfamiliesjobs if you've got any questions or any issues, or you just want to sort of work out how to use it best and things like that. So Sarah is the one who sits behind it and does all the fantastic work behind it. But what we wanted to do is give you a quick overview of what the Forces Families Jobs website can offer you as a candidate if you were to go on and use the site, before we then introduce our fantastic speakers who are here today. So Jenna, would you like to take it away?
Brilliant, thanks Lucy. So the very fact that you're on this webinar says to me that you have heard of Forces Families Jobs, which is a brilliant start. Forces Families Jobs is a one-stop shop that aims to bring members of the military community, so spouses, partners and adult dependents, and connect them with forces-friendly employers and training providers. So we launched in September 2019 and continue to grow. Literally about 2 minutes ago, I checked the number of live vacancies we have on the system at the moment, and we're standing at 4,763. Last weekend, we did tip the 5,000 live vacancies balance, but we're still, working to consistently stay above 5,000. But it just goes to give you an idea of the number of vacancies that are on there. You can also access training provision from providers who offer a special benefit to the military community. We've got all sorts of things on there, from returning to nursing, looking at craft courses in making products out of resin, employability courses, employability skills, all that kind of thing that can really support you in either learning something new or developing your skills for employment. I should say that all of our employers who are registered with us, they are signatories to the Armed Forces Covenant. We don't charge them to advertise their roles with us, but we do request that they are signatories to the Covenant, which demonstrates their commitment to supporting you as a military family. So, very quickly, in a nutshell, that's Forces Families Jobs. I would recommend that you go and have a little look at it. It's really, really easy to use. It's very, very user-friendly, and just have a look at what opportunities are available for you, either online or in your own location. So next slide, Lucy, please.
Thanks, Jenna. So it gives me great delight to introduce to you today our 3 employers that we've got with us. So we've got Rupert Stevens, Grace Presslands and Heather from the Metro Bank today, who are going to be speaking to us first, followed by Liam Coates and Megan Tapper from SSAFA. Oh, sorry, no, it's Norfolk Fire and Rescue first. So it's going to be Stuart Geary and David Copeland from Norfolk Fire and Rescue, and then lastly followed up by Liam Coates and Megan Tapper from SSAFA. So Rupert, with no further ado, I'd like to hand over to you. I'm going to stop sharing my screen now, and then hopefully you'll be able to do the same from your end.
Sure. Thank you very much, everybody. And hello to all of you who've joined. It's lovely to be here today. I'll just share my screen, and then hopefully you'll get the right screen and not my emails, which are very dull. Hopefully that's coming up now. Great. So Metro Bank, I'll try and cover a few things sort of over the next 10 minutes or so. And then if you've got any immediate questions, I'm here. Then we have our breakout room. And as Lucy said, we've got Grace in there, who is our head of recruitment. We have an internal recruitment team. And we also have Heather, who is a colleague of ours who is also from a Forces family. So she knows exactly the audience that she'll be taking questions from. So please do grill us in that room if you're interested. I guess really we've done a few of these with a number of different sort of audiences, some of which are military, because we're obviously military supporters. I'm ex-military myself, and I guess the first thing I thought would be probably useful is to give you a very quick 2 minutes on Metro Bank itself, but then really focus on some myth busting, because I think having done the journey myself into sort of banking, very loosely termed with retail banking, but it isn't what people sometimes think it is. Sort of watched various films or what have you. So hopefully I can do some myth busting. I can then give you a bit of an introduction into sort of areas that we have that help keep the bank ticking over, because it's not all after the myth busting what you might see or might think it is, and then a very brief bit on the process itself, for given that you are Forces Families and we are a covenant signatory and we have our own process in for segments such as yourselves. So I'll cover all those, and then if that's of any interest, then great, join us in the room, and if it's not, I'd like to think it also has helped your decision-making process in terms of what you might like to be interested in terms of roles. So Metro Bank, as it says there on the screen, it's the newest high street bank. There's lots of digital banks and things that are coming up, but this was one that was built 10 years ago, founded by an American, hence the rather brash colours. But basically, the American guy who is in retail. Ultimately, he was a Burger King franchise owner before he set up a bank in America, and then came over here and realized what he sort of really understood was that banks, being sort of the grey, slightly faceless, sort of impersonal sort of enterprises that they are not necessarily something that you really want to engage with. And his question, coming from retail, was why? Because actually they offer a service, they offer products. It's like a shop, okay, you get a mortgage or a savings account or whatever from a bank, as opposed to an iPad or something, but effectively it's the same thing. And actually, why is there this whole sort of image and experience that you have with banking? So that's what he focused on. And that's ultimately what he drives into every single colleague who works at Metro Bank, which is sort of why I liked it. I moved from another bank to Metro Bank a couple of years ago, and it really is all about. And for those with military experience and sort of osmosis that's happened over the years, it's all about, the main effort is about customers. And it's a bit cheesy to say that, because of course everyone says that, but actually the point that he was saying is everything pivots around that. So for example, if a customer needs a new card, we get card printing in the stores all the time, if needs a new card and they've got a business meeting and they can't make it, we've had store colleagues running across, getting cabs across London, or getting cabs to drop the card off at their dinner table so that they can pay the bill in time, things like that. He just sort of said, why wouldn't a bank do that? Why should there be this sort of faceless bit? So that was sort of the thing that underpins Metro Bank itself. It's a retail bank, so it's mortgages, savings, current accounts, loans, whatever it might be, all the stuff that you would get, but it is community focused, because we obviously couldn't just copy everyone else 10 years ago and start putting a branch on every single street in every single town, because, as you know, other banks are having to withdraw their branches from every single street in every single town, because it costs too much these days. And also with digitization, why people don't necessarily need one on every street in every town. But I think what the Metro Bank sort of focus is all about is, well, people still need to talk to people. So where we do have them, and we have 73, and it's going up to, I think, over 100 over the next 5 years around the country, and that's the UK, not just England. It's sort of, you need somewhere to go if you need to see someone and speak to someone. So no appointment needed. You can take your dog, you can bring your children. There's colouring in and stuff like that. It's meant to be more like a store experience, and that's what it's all about. So yes, there is a branch presence in these, or we call them stores, but basically a branch presence around the country. And obviously, yes, there's also the telephony and the digitization that goes on behind that. But it does an awful lot of community outreach as well. So, for example, Money Zone is a free financial education sort of workshop that all our stores do to the communities for children at key stages, was of 1 to 3. They go into schools and to community centres and deliver those, and they do an awful lot of business development around the local communities and understanding the local charities and trying to help, not just because you want customers and to bank with you, but actually the other side is, actually, if you're going to be a community bank, you need to put your money where your mouth is and actually integrate with that community. Even if they're not your customers, they are part of your community. So they've tried to really shake the image of bad banking, I guess, which is why it started sort of 10 years ago after the crash and everything else. So that's what Metro Bank is. the type of person, and therefore the type of thing that we're trying to get to in order to sort of help that tick along, I guess, is the key point here is the first one on that on these bullets, and that is hiring for attitude and training for skill, which I think is why it's very appealing for the military and our HR recruitment team. And Grace is in the room later, as I said. They absolutely are 100% behind doing sort of applying that bullet point. So everyone has experiences and skills. Does everyone have banking experience and skills? No. Did I? Absolutely not. I was a grenadier guard, and about the most digitization and about most banking experience I had was as a sort of 30-year-old leaving the military was not huge, and that's a bit different now, sort of 6 or 7 years later. But that's because I've been trained as I've sort of learnt on the job, because they understood I had some basic skills that would add value, but then they can train in the rest, and hopefully the end package is something that they feel it's worth investing in. And that's how they see it amongst all, certainly the military college, but amongst others. And they put their money where their mouth is with this apprenticeship, which is the second bullet down. So we also now, COVID delayed it, or didn't delay it, put a break in it obviously for a while because we couldn't do it, but we're restarting them again in a couple of months' time, but have apprenticeships. So for some of the roles, we will get people without any maths or English GCSEs or what have you, and give them those as well as train them for a job and give them a job at the end of it. So through an apprenticeship program, and that's sort of really the sort of the approach to hiring that we have here. But really more specifically for you, I guess we've tried to sort of really focus on this on the military community. And so now, and you will get it, I'll show you, sorry, on the next in the room, you'll get them all, but there's the email addresses of the key head recruiters across all the different areas, which I'll finish on in the bank. And you basically would look on your jobs, and Forces Families jobs have our vacancies there. If you see anything, or even don't really know but think you might like to be part of the organisation for one reason or another, just feel free to. What we do is we guarantee you a phone call. So drop your CV, say that you're from this Forces Family Jobs webinar, or that you are part of the Forces Families community, and one of our recruiters will phone you back, go through what makes you tick, what you're interested in, what your experiences are. Doesn't matter, no, as long as you've got the right attitude, we can train for skill, and then take some next steps from there if it's worth it, for you as well as for us. But for you as well, it's a very open conversation and has no impact. What goes on in those conversations has no impact on any form of interviews or what have you. You don't get a sort of a chit that gets sent to the hiring manager who's interviewing you saying, oh goodness, they were awful in the thing. The amount of questions they asked us, obviously not. It's all about getting people to the right level and the right standard, and then if it's relevant for both parties and it's something both parties would like to do, you will then get put in front of a hiring manager, but you will be helped all the way through the journey. And so that's what we try and embed, and that's what we are doing now. And we've had a few successful hires that way. And I think we've got a couple from Forces Families jobs actually in interview stage at the moment, just from their own, just straight applications, nothing through webinars or anything like that. So that's great news. So finally, just a bit of myth busting about the roles themselves. Yes, of course, there are banking roles. As I've shown you the picture of the store there, yes, of course, there are plenty of those around the country, and there will be more and more of those coming up, and the telephony teams that do all the telephony side. But obviously, that's not just what makes an organization or a company. You've got everything from IT, products. That's where I am. I'm actually a mortgage product guy, right? So the mortgages that you see when you go in and say, can I have a mortgage, please? The mortgages that are offered and how much they cost you is my fault. So there's that side of things, but there's also the HR, there's finance and accountancy, obviously, if that's something that's of interest to you, and everything in between: compliance, risk, growth, business development, sales, everything that you can imagine a large-ish business would be, and there are sort of 6,000 employees now, and it's growing. That's sort of every part of that is something that you might be interested in, or that you might find yourself in, and then see there's something else somewhere else across the business that you'd actually prefer to do. Well, you can then move once you're in, that sort of thing. So it doesn't matter about qualifications, doesn't matter about banking experience, it's about the person. And once the person's hired, the rest we worry about, and that's our issue, not yours. Okay, so I guess that's sort of the headlines I want to do, and hopefully myth bust in terms of what the sort of the bank has on offer. I'm happy to take questions now, but also conscious of time. So our rooms going to be open, I think, at about 1 o'clock. So come in, and as I say, there'll be Grace, who's in recruitment, Heather, who is a Forces Family person herself, and then me, who is a boring ex-mill guy, but I'll keep quiet and I only answer questions if pertinent. That's it, Lucy.
Wonderful. Thanks so much, Rupert. That's really kind. So without further ado, we're going to hand over to Stuart and to David, who are going to talk to you from Norfolk Fire and Rescue. So can I ask you guys to take the lead, if possible, please?
Absolutely. Thanks, Lucy. Hopefully you can see the screen there. So first and foremost, thank you very much, everybody, for joining the webinar today and for providing myself and David the opportunity to come and speak to you about Norfolk Fire and Rescue Service. I'm Stu Geary, I'm Head of Capability within NFRS, and with me, as I say, is Dave Copeland. He's one of our uniform station managers, and he heads up our learning and development team of our training centre at Bowthorpe in Norfolk. Next 15 minutes, what I'm going to do is start off with a quick introductory video. So please forgive me, I'll have to flick this between screens in just a minute, which will just show you a little bit about Norfolk Fire and Rescue Service. Then I'll hand over to Dave. And Dave will talk to you about the uniform roles and what's required to become a firefighter. And then I'll pick up about the other roles and describe some of the other opportunities that are available in terms of supporting the fire service. And then finally, I'll just finish off on why we think you would be good candidates for joining our organisation. And then, like Rupert has just said, there'll be the opportunity to join us in a breakout room afterwards. So I'll just bear with me 2 seconds while I just flick between the screens. And I'll show the video in the first instance.
We are Norfolk Fire and Rescue Service. We have nearly 800 staff and cover a rural county of 2,074 square miles.
Norfolk has 91 miles of coastline and 200 miles of inland waterways.
We work from 41 fire stations. Many of those are on-call sites, where for our staff, firefighting is their second job.
We save lives.
We prevent.
We protect.
We respond.
We are about so much more than fighting fires.
We educate through Crucial Crew.
We make futures brighter through the Prince's Trust Team programme
and fire cadets.
All successful ways we work with young people.
We support business owners to help reduce the risk to buildings and people.
We offer throwline training to waterside businesses and carry out home fire risk checks for vulnerable people in our communities every day.
We carry out seatbelt safety checks for families to ensure their precious cargo is safe on the move.
We attend community events because we want to work with everyone to get our safety message into the heart of every community.
Our crossing patrols see children safely to school.
Our fleet team keeps us on the road, on the water, on the move, wherever we are needed.
Our procurement teams,
stores,
finance,
human resources
and ICT teams do all the things that the public don't necessarily think about.
Without them, we wouldn't have a service.
They ensure we have the safest and most reliable equipment, invest in the right technology, and underpin the safety and well-being of the work that happens every day in our service.
Every single person in our service plays a part in keeping the wheels and the hose reels turning.
We train continuously so we are prepared, from weekly drill nights to ongoing training exercises.
We prepare for every eventuality, even the unexpected ones.
We are reliable and flexible to change as situations evolve.
We show our resilience to the great British weather.
From extreme cold
to extreme heat,
from heat waves to floods and storms,
we are ready.
We invest in continually improving our service.
Whether that's our vehicles, technology, equipment, training or approach, we constantly assess changing risks.
We lead by example. We guide and support a safer Norfolk for the benefit of everyone. Residents, visitors, businesses, organisations and you.
We intervene where we need to reduce risk and protect people in our fine county.
We are not afraid to take enforcement action where it is needed.
Wherever we are needed, we are there, reliable, committed and willing.
Our service is relevant. We do what the communities of Norfolk need.
Our service is capable. We have the right people, kit and systems to do our job.
Our service is agile. We are flexible to changing situations and changing times.
Whether there's a rescue from height, low, enclosed space or open spaces, we are ready for the challenges we face.
In some circumstances, we are there to ensure we won't be needed again. Much as we love to engage with our communities, we always prefer to do this in happier times than at the scene of a fire or rescue.
We work closely with blue light colleagues every day, supporting one another to protect our own people and the wider public.
We work with many partner agencies, from local authorities to community groups to housing associations and the Coast Guard and RNLI.
We are part of county-wide and national groups, for example, Norfolk Resilience Forum, Broadsby, NFCC.
We work with Norfolk County Council colleagues across many departments, including community and environmental services, which our service is part of, to other areas of the council.
We all work together for Norfolk.
We regularly work together with staff in public health, road safety, adult social care, children's services, highways, trading standards and corporate services.
We're part of every community, every town, every village, and we exist to ensure the safety of everyone.
As a team, we support one another and show understanding and respect.
We are proud and positive about our work and our service, respecting the part we play in our success.
Every member of staff is invaluable in keeping the wheels turning. All of our people are the heroes in our communities.
We are one team.
We are Norfolk Fire and Rescue Service.
So what I'm going to do is just hand over to Dave now to talk about becoming a firefighter. Dave, you're on mute, mate.
Apologies, just getting used to Teams. I hope you all enjoyed the video, and I'm now going to talk to you about becoming a firefighter. So there are currently 35,000 firefighters across the UK serving their local communities. 16,000 of them are on our on-call contracts, and I will talk about the differences between those two a little bit later. So our recruitment process within Norfolk Fire and Rescue Service starts with our advertising campaign, which operates on a number of different platforms, from social media and Facebook to our county council website. Once you've identified which role you want to undertake, whether it's on-call or whole-time, you submit an application form. You then hold an informal interview just to talk through the process, and then you enter into the selection phase. This is conducted at our training centre here at Bowthorpe, where you will undertake a number of functional tests, everything from the bleep test, and the level for the bleep test entry is 8.8. And the reason for that high level, which is the highest of all the emergency services, is to do with compartmental firefighting and the physiological effects it has on the human body. So we need to make sure that our firefighters are ready for that eventuality. We also undertake a number of functional skills, from climbing a ladder to make sure you've got no fear from heights, some casualty drag to make sure you can successfully recover a fallen comrade or someone you're trying to rescue from any type of building, and some strength and conditioning exercises, as well as some functional roles around English and maths. Once you've successfully passed that element, you'll then sit an interview. And then from that point, once you've successfully passed the interview, you'll be eligible for appointment into either the two job roles, i.e. contract for on-call or for whole-time. So on-call, as I said, there's 16,000 on-call across the UK. We rely heavily on our on-call colleagues to staff for frontline appliances here in Norfolk. 39 of the 41 fire stations have an on-call contingent. And the eligibility for the on-calls, you need to work or live within 5 minutes of the station. All our on-call have a primary employment, and their employers are release them from their primary jobs to attend emergency incidents. Our on-call colleagues are trained to the same level as our whole time. They just do their training over a modular phase program over a 2-year phased development, where our whole time come into the training centre and they do it over a condensed 12-week program. Our whole time colleagues are recruited in the same way. As I said, they do a 12-week intensive development. In fact, we've got one running as we speak. We've got 15 recruits on there. We've got 3 ex-services recruits, and we've got 4 females. As we're an equal opportunities employer, and we actively go out and try and recruit from all aspects of our local community. We run taster sessions to try and encourage people from all walks of life to come and join the fire and rescue service. And to date, we've been really successful in encouraging those individuals from joining our organisation. In terms of accessing information, in terms of if this was a career that you felt was right for you, we've got our Norfolk Fire and Rescue Facebook page. We have some links that we'll happily share with you within the breakout rooms for YouTube videos on how to prepare to become a firefighter. Also, you can contact our human resources team, and they can also give you some advice. Or probably the best thing is actually just go down to your local fire station, engage with the guys and girls who serve your local community, and they will be able to give you loads and loads of advice of how to join the fire and rescue service. So the next steps, really, if you are really interested in joining the fire service family, is to look on social media to wherever you live. Look at the local press, because different fire and rescue services will advertise across a multitude of different platforms. And I hope that some of you out there would like to join us, because we have had a high success rate of encouraging ex-services into the fire and rescue service, and they've been a true asset to our organisation. Over to you, Stu.
Thanks, Dave. So Dave just talked you through the uniform side of the service and how to become a firefighter. But the Norfolk Fire and Rescue Service and all fire and rescue services across the country aren't just about the uniformed roles. There's a variety of non-uniform roles that sit behind that frontline operational delivery. Some of our prevention and protection activities that you've seen in the video, where we go out to our communities and go and do that preventative, proactive type work, is delivered by non-uniform roles. Equally, there's people employed in audit and assurance, in intelligence, in the logistics area, in the technical support area, HR, pay, ICT, procurement, and also, as you would have seen on the video, the school crossing patrols as well sit under us as a rescue service. As an ex-military person myself, I served for 30 years in the Air Force and joined Norfolk Fire and Rescue Service just over a year ago, actually. What I've found with the fire service is that it's a very familiar environment. It's a uniform service predominantly, yes, but it is absolutely one team serving the community in the same way as the military operates, all working to deliver that frontline operational capability. And there's across the country, unlike the military, across the country, the individual fire and rescue services don't work to a single headquarters. They're actually all governed in different ways. There are some of our rescue services, fire and rescue services, are independent. Others are governed by our police and crime commissioners across the country, and others, like Norfolk, are governed by the local government authority. In our case, we're looked after by Norfolk County Council, and in Norfolk, we're very lucky. With the council is signed up to the Armed Forces Covenant and is very, very proactive in terms of supporting military personnel and their families. And the benefits that brings for anybody coming and working for Norfolk Fire, or indeed the wider county council, is that they offer really flexible employment policies, getting time off at short notice to go and support deployments, whether that's prior to a deployment or post deployment, is not an issue. Equally, getting time off for childcare, unpaid leave for childcare, again, really simple to provide. And there's a whole variety of contracts available to you. Annualised hours, term time. So we've got lots of employees across the county council in particular that work term time only, so working around the school time. But equally part-time working and flexible working, and we've certainly made the benefits of those flexible working arrangements over the last years. We've been working through the pandemic. The technology that's available to us to be able to work from home, work the hours that that meet the needs of individuals, is quite remarkable. Of course, just to put a caveat on that, all those contracts are absolutely, and all those ways of working are subject to the business need, of course, but the organisation will do its best to work around you. Something else that's just been recently been set up within the wider county council is an armed forces network. So I get together on a regular basis with the colleagues in the business that have got a connection to the military. Great to get together and have a bit of banter about good old times, throwing banter the way of the Army and the Navy from my perspective as an ex-Air Force. But what's also being set up is a buddy or a mentor scheme, whereby anybody that's got a military connection will have the opportunity to have a point of contact within the organisation who will look after you and help you through the process, whether that's just getting a bit of work experience or looking to put an application in, or indeed if you manage to secure a job with Norfolk County Council or indeed with Norfolk Fire and Rescue, then we'll look after you from day one and make sure that you learn very quickly how the organisation operates. The other part to that as well, in terms of that armed forces network and the benefits to armed forces personnel, as an armed forces covenant signatory, anybody that is a serving member of the forces or indeed a veteran, so has served in the military, Norfolk County Council will guarantee an interview for anybody that falls into that category and that meets the essential criteria of a job specification. So you'll be guaranteed an interview to come in. And again, that buddy system will be there to help you through that. And finally, that's on there, like most employers, or virtually all employers now, it's definitely an inclusive employer. I'm very happy to make reasonable adjustments for individuals, because what we're all about is trying to get the best out of you. And in terms of getting the best out of you, why do we want you? Well, as I say, as an ex-serviceman myself, I know what my wife brings to the party when she's applying for a job as a spouse and partner of somebody that served into the military. A huge amount of life experience. Spending time in the military, going around, traveling around, spending time in different countries, having to deal with partners, going away on deployments, coming back, going away on training courses, you name it. It's not only life experience, but it's a huge amount of resilience that you build up over time. And don't underestimate that resilience that you have as a spouse or partner of a service, of somebody in the service, is a huge asset. The other part, with all the moving around that you do, you're having to make connections every time you move to a new location, make new friendship groups. And what that does is it generates those people skills in you. And again, a really key asset that we'd like to tap into and get you and use within the organisation. And finally, normally I would associate the work ethic with the military person. We know they're going to be reliable. We know they're going to turn up smart and be willing to do an honest day's work for an honest day's pay. And I relate that not just to the service person, but I relate that to the whole service family, speaking from my own experience. So that's the other thing that I think that you bring to the party. I hope that's given you a bit of an insight into Norfolk Fire and Rescue Service and indeed the wider fire sector and indeed the wider Norfolk County Council. And you'll see all the jobs advertised on Forces Family Jobs and also on the NCC website, and encourage you to go and have a look. That's it from me. We'll look forward to taking any questions in the breakout room.
Wonderful, thanks so much, Stuart, and to Dave. It's really great to hear a bit of an overview. I learnt loads in that session. I never knew about all these different roles that you can do in fire and rescue. So yeah, no, thank you very much. I really appreciate that, and I hope lots of you got lots out of that too. Next, we're going to hand over to SSAFA and to Liam, who's going to give you a bit of an introduction into the role that SSAFA can play and what roles are available within the enormous armed forces charity that we've got, which is also fantastic. So over to you, Liam.
Yes, thank you very much, Lucy. So just to introduce myself first, I'm Liam Coates, Senior People Officer at SSAFA, the Armed Forces Charity, and unfortunately I can't meet you all in person today due to the pandemic, but it's hopefully you can learn more, and it's nice to meet you virtually today. Right, I'm going to just tell you a little bit of information about the Armed Forces Charity. Now, I imagine a lot of you are probably already familiar with SSAFA, being a huge charity in the military sector and serving the armed forces personnel since 1885. But who are we and what do we do as a business? So our vision and our mission here shown on the slideshow presentation that I have, but it's quite long. I wouldn't expect you to just read that off the top of your tongue. But SSAFA, the Armed Forces Charity, exists to support those and provide lifelong support to the forces and their families since 1885. So that would be anyone who's working in the Royal Navy, the Royal Marines, the British Army, and the Royal Air Force and their families. So over 2019, we helped more than 85,000 people in need, ranging from those currently serving, the veterans, and those who have served in recent conflicts, as well as their families. Our ultimate goal is to support those in need to regain their independence and dignity. Now, some of you may not know this as well, but Military Wives Choir is also a subsidiary of SSAFA. It's also an independent charity, but it also forms part of us. It supports all women across the military community. Now, how do we go about tackling those issues and supporting those in need in the armed forces community? So as you can see from this diagram here, there are a lot of departments and areas that we can help those and provide a service for those in the armed forces and their families. I'm just going to cover a couple of them, which is the RAF Social Care Service, that offer support for RAF families with comprehensive and confidential support with a special focus on services for adults, but including children, young people and their families. We also have the Adoption Service, which is tailor-made for the armed forces to support those through the adoption process. We have a domestic refuge and housing service, providing a safe place for those who need the shelter and the safety aspect. There's also the mentoring service that is there for the leavers from the armed forces and helping them adjust to civvy life. And we have a forces line that is a dedicated telephone service supporting the armed forces community over the phone and signposting them to this information required. We also have in one of our areas is the volunteer sector, which is the casework. So supported by over 5,000 volunteers. Their purpose is to signpost and support people in need of financial, practical and emotional support from their local branch. Now, there is a huge amount of different skill sets that we need to be able to provide the services that we need and achieve that overarching charity goal. So if you wanted to be part of it, what sort of opportunities do we have coming up? So our employment opportunities is a really, really exciting time at SSAFA at the moment. To commemorate 140 years since starting in 1885, we have gone through a massive restructure, especially in our volunteer network. Now, this has opened up room for more roles to be available for those. We've recently just finished recruiting for a volunteer development manager role, which there are very varied ones across different regions across the UK that look after the volunteers in those areas and support the development process of the processes for the volunteers there. We also had the regional operational support managers. Both of these roles were extremely popular. And after this, we now have the casework administrators and the regional casework manager roles that are coming up for to support this change. Now, the main focus of these roles are going to be assisting the volunteers in streamlining the casework management process and ensuring the casework in the regions of their responsibilities are adequately supported and completed effectively. Whilst we have this massive change in the volunteer network, we do have a lot of various roles cropping up in our social care operations department within our personal and family support service to the RAF personnel. This service has been in place for over 30 years, where we have varied roles such as the personal and family support worker, which is aimed at those who are unqualified in the social work sector with minimal social work experience in delivering assessments for those who require the confidential support that we can give. There's also the advanced practitioner social work roles. Now, these are for the more qualified people who have that social work qualification and the experience behind them to manage those longer term caseloads and the complex cases as well. And moving on from this, we do have some overseas positions. So we have a range of roles streaming up all the way through the UK, but we also have Cyprus as one of our main places of operations. We do have occasionally roles in the Brunei area, and we do have one person based on their own in the Batus region, which is in Canada. In Cyprus, though, however, that is where we actively recruit a lot at the moment. And so you can see some roles cropping up in the healthcare sector. Now, there are 3 areas across Cyprus that we recruit for. So that is Akrotiri, Episkopi, and Deucalion. Now, Meg, please correct me or put in the chat if I've said any of those wrong or if there's somewhere that I've missed. That would be, really appreciate that. And the other roles that can crop up on there from time to time is the nursing, midwifery, and CAMS mental health nursing roles. Now, these are for the specialist healthcare roles with the qualifications and professional experience to be able to deliver the services in that healthcare function. Whilst these are very specific on having that experience in the background, we do have some business support administration roles that cover those functions and give the administrative support that they require. Now, these are mainly aimed at the sort of people that come over, and because they're based on the basis over in Cyprus, these are mainly aimed at more or less dependents, and that's what kind of happens with the people that come over and achieve those roles. So part of it would be these are aimed at those dependents within the armed forces. Now, how do we support those within the RAF? Within the armed forces. So we understand that there's going to be changes in your employment. There may be you've been posted out by your spouse, very short notice. So we understand that these things can happen. Another thing to remember is that what makes SSAFA a really appealing place to work is that we recently ran a survey of what makes SSAFA employees happy at work, and the overwhelming response that we had was that the support of their colleagues is unmatched with anywhere else. Whilst these are the main opportunities that appear at SSAFA with the volunteer network and the social care operations and healthcare, that doesn't mean there won't be just limited to these areas. We do have other opportunities that appear in our central functions, such as the fundraising, and there's also regional fundraising as well. The marketing and communications department, our volunteer experience that looks at that volunteer journey, our adoption team, the mentoring team, and the people, HR, and learning and development department. And there's many more other departments as well. And I won't go through all of them because it's a long list. So how can we support you when at SSAFA, as you being a military spouse and in being an employee in general at SSAFA? So we do offer 25 days of annual leave that rises to 30 days after 5 years of service. We also offer 2 volunteering days a year that you can use to support those causes that you are passionate about. We have a company sickness pay scheme that starts from day 1 from employment. We have a cycle scheme that isn't specifically for cycle to work. You can use this scheme to purchase yourself some bikes and use it for equipment and use that as a salary sacrifice option. We've recently just started to grant flexible working requests from day 1 of employment, and this is as a result of the working during the current situation with the pandemic. It's enabled us to realise that as a charity we can adapt and evolve, and it has shown us that we can still deliver the effective services we've been delivering from home and with remote locations. We also have enhanced company adoption, maternity and paternity pay, which is available after 1 year of service, and with the statutory leave and pay, the statutory eligibility requirements still apply. Now there's a company pension with Aviva, and we also have life assurance with AIG, which offers up to 3 times your salary in case of the death in service with SSAFA. We also, through this, we do get a wellbeing activity reward app that has it provided a massive opportunity for us to use this to create SAFA-wide competitions where we can get some friendly competition between our Cyprus teams, our teams in Brunei, our teams, and when we did have them, our teams in Belgium. And we also, ordered cross-department functionality and building those relationships. And with this whole pandemic, it's shown us that we can build those relationships across the seas by using this app to challenge each other to complete the steps and build that relationship and workplace culture that we've been looking for. We also, as I've mentioned before in a previous slide, we understand the military lifestyle. We understand that, as I've said, that your references may not be precise and you may not have exactly the same skill set that we're looking for these roles. And we understand that, if you have to be posted out by short notice, the notice periods we can look at reducing, and we're not going to begrudge you if in 2 weeks' time after accepting the role you have been told that you need to be posted out again. We understand with the references that if you've jumped from job to job, we can see that and we can understand why we wouldn't hold that against you. And also we have that unparalleled support of the armed forces community. So if you are part of that community, then you can tap into that and speak to your peers within the organisation, find out where you could get support for people that who could use it. Now, if you do want to join the SAFA family, the process is as follows. If you visit the SAFA website and go to our careers page, you can have a read of our testimonials about people and their careers at SAFA. And you can also watch our very short video about what working life is like at SAFA. When you are there, you can select the current vacancies button, and that will take you through to our job board where you can look through the job description and the job adverts and download that and then begin to assess yourself against the personal specification. Once you are ready and feel that you can apply for that position, hit the application button. And that will then be sent off. And then when the closing date arrives, we will then be looking at that through a shortlisting assessment, which is done independently by the recruitment manager and another person on the panel who understands the role and is able to give unbiased opinions on the rating and the scores. Once that's happened and you've been shortlisted for the role, the recruitment process takes place, and it could be an interview remotely completed, or if hopefully in the future, we can start doing face-to-face ones again, just to give that extra side for you to be able to assess us as an employer in person as well. Once that has finished, we then go to the offer stage, and you'll be informed in a timely course. We make sure we have some service level agreements that people are informed within a week of their interview and within a week of the shortlisting closing date. So we make sure that we ensure that service is delivered in a timely manner and people are kept up to date with their applications. Or if you want to find out a bit more about SAFA and you want to see what other opportunities we do have, there are a lot of volunteering opportunities. So if you visit the link that's on our page here, you can find out about the various roles we have in the volunteer area. Now, you can use these to upskill yourself. You can find out more, see how you can support the armed forces community yourself. But it's really good for you to have a look at that to see what sort of opportunities could be of interest. And that brings me to the end of my presentation. So I will be in the breakout room with my colleague Megan Tapper, who is a business support administrator, who is also a dependent of an armed forces personnel, and be able to give you her shared experience of what it's like working for SAFA and how we've supported her working for SAFA when she joined back in November 2020. But in the meantime, if you've got any questions, I'll be happy to answer them, and I put our HR mailbox here where one of myself or one of my team will be able to get back to you. Thank you very much.
Liam, thanks so much. That was a really fantastic overview of SAFA and the different roles and opportunities that are available within the team. It's also great to learn about the different overseas roles that you've got, which are really, really interesting, particularly for those spouses who are overseas or maybe moving overseas, and on what sort of things are available to them. So what's going to happen now is we're going to break out into 3 breakout rooms, as each of the speakers has mentioned. I'm going to pop those links now into the chat, which you should all be able to access. So once we finish from here, we are going to go straight over into one of the rooms. You can jump between any of them that you like. and come and speak to us. I know that there's a couple of different spouses who are working within the organisations ready to speak to you, as well as each of the employers. And one of the Forces Families Jobs team will be there and ready to speak to you as well. So please give us 5 minutes just to do that transfer over, and we look forward to seeing you in one of the breakout rooms in a moment. And then what we'll do is we'll come back to this room to say a final goodbye and thanks very much at the end. So we will see you shortly in the breakout rooms. Oh, wonderful. Right, have we got everyone back? If we've still got some stragglers on, I'm sure. It just leaves me to say thank you very much to everybody today for your time. It's really been great for us, not only as the FFJ team, to learn more about what your organisations can offer and how we can help promote you from within the Families Federations, but also within Forces Families Jobs. It's great to be able to know that there's so many different opportunities available. I personally learned loads, and I'm sure others did too. And it's also great, Liam, to learn about the different overseas roles that we have available to spouses, because as we've seen from a couple of the ladies who are with us today, you know, those are absolutely crucial for those who are living overseas. So the more that we can support not just those within the UK, but also abroad is amazing. So thank you to everyone. We really appreciate it. And if there are any final questions for the FFJ team or for any of the employers, do get in contact with us. Our email address is help@forcesfamiliesjobs.co.uk. And we will pick up any of those and forward them on to anyone if need be. Are there any final questions or remarks that anyone would like to add before we leave today?
Sarah, is there anything in the chat box?
No, I think that's it. I think we've chatted about everything that was in there.
Okay.
Wonderful.
Yeah, I
well,
can't see anything.
That leaves me to just say thank you very much. I hope you can now all go away and enjoy the sunshine wherever you are in the country or the world. I'm certainly going to go out and have my lunch in the sunshine now. And thanks very much, and look forward to being in touch with you all soon.
Thanks, everybody. Take
Thank
care.
you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.